Do you have an unexpected story to tell or know someone who does? We'd love to have you on the pod. Please apply at pleasedon'ttellanyonePod@gmail.com or follow our application link in bio of our Instagram, Please Don't Tell Anyone Pod, or TikTok account.
It looked like tar, and it was wrapped in aluminum foil, and he had a scale, and he would cut little pieces off of it and weigh it and sell it off of our dining room table. So that's how they started selling drugs off of our table.
Hey, and thanks for coming back to Please Don't Tell Anyone. I'm Molly Clark, your host, and this is the podcast where you hear unexpected stories by ordinary people. I go in blind to all my interviews so that I can hear the story firsthand, just like you.
Please don't tell anyone. I said, please don't tell anyone.
Don't tell
I said,
them,
please don't tell anyone. Please don't tell anyone.
Don't tell
I said,
them,
please don't tell anyone. I said, please don't tell anyone.
Don't tell
Begging,
them,
please
don't tell anyone.
Please don't tell anyone.
My mom left me with a neighbor when I was 1, and my dad was shot when I was 8. After my dad died, I lived with my stepmother for a while, then lived with my bio mom, and she sold drugs off our dining room table. I finally ended up living with my dad's sister.
Start off with, my dad was in the Navy. He was from Texas. My mom was from Pennsylvania somewhere. And I don't even know where they met, but they had lived in Connecticut for a little while, and they had my older sister, and then when I was born, we lived in Virginia. And my mom I think she was 19 when my sister was born, and she was 21 when I was born. And she just kind of decided that being a mom wasn't fun. And so she left us with our neighbor, and my dad was out on a submarine in the middle of the ocean, and so he couldn't get right back to take care of us. So my grandfather had to drive from Texas to Virginia to pick us up and take us back to Texas where he was living.
This was your dad's parents or your mom's parents?
Yes, my dad's parents. And my mom was adopted, so my mom had a lot of issues with being adopted and didn't relate to her family and kind of separated herself from her family.
A lot of identity issues.
Yeah, she had a lot of identity issues. And I think that she had this ideal of being a mom, and like that being a mom was going to make her like automatic family, and that
Fix everything.
we were going to fulfill her life or whatever. And then when she had 2 kids by 21, she decided, oh, maybe this wasn't a good idea.
So there's a 3-year age gap between you and your sister?
No, she's a year and 9 months older than me.
Okay.
So basically,
Very bad at math. So she was only just about 3 when you guys were dropped with the neighbors. Is she still alive today?
She is, yes.
And what year would this have been? I mean, there's no
It was,
internet.
let's see, it's like 1970. I was born in 69, so it's like the next year.
Got it. Where did your mom go when she dropped you guys?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. I think that I can remember at one point she ended up in Germany for a little while. And she was in Alabama with around her parents had moved from Pennsylvania to Alabama. And so I think she was there for a little while. And then I don't really know what happened to her. I mean, it seems like she would I think we have some pictures maybe when I was about 3 of a Christmas together at her mom and dad's. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking she dropped back in periodically here and there. And I also have a picture of her at my grandparents' in Texas when I wasn't very old.
Do you and your sister have the same bio father?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so so there's that consistency that you guys have the same parent.
Mm-hmm.
And are you guys close or?
Yes, we are close.
That's good.
We are close. We're opposite types of people. She's very extroverted and has never met a person that she doesn't isn't her best friend as soon as she meets them. And I'm a little bit more introverted, and I only have a few close friends, and I kind of keep everybody at bay. And so it's been a struggle for us to keep our relationship good. But I lived close to her in Alaska for about 7 years, and we developed our relationship really well.
Yeah, sisters are. It's such a complicated relationship because it's the only person who went through what you went through with you. And me and my sister are real opposites too.
she remembers things a little differently than I do as well. Like she doesn't remember any of the bad stuff hardly. She remembered like she's
We all cope
sugar
differently.
coated almost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your grandparents come pick you up from where?
We were living in Norfolk, Virginia.
Where did they drive from, though?
They drove from Miles, Texas, which is
Wow.
in West Texas. Kind of, it's by Abilene, kind of in between
wouldn't
Abilene and San Angelo.
Yeah.
It's West Texas.
And
Just
they
know it's
they
West
pick
Texas.
you up, they drive you back, and how long did you live with them?
I think we probably lived with them for about a year at least. But like after a few months, my dad came back, was released from the Navy and got back off the submarine and came and lived with us. And then I think we lived with them for, let's see, it may have been 2 years.
Was your dad, when he got back, under the assumption that, like, or when he left, that him and your mom were together and dating? Like, was he blindsided by her just leaving him?
Yeah, they were married. They were
my
married
God.
and had been married for a couple of, yeah. So he had every assumption that,
He was coming back to a family.
yeah, yes.
So you live with your grandparents, and then does your dad get a house for himself? I mean, I know the next part is him being shot at 8, but for that period.
I believe that we all lived with my grandparents for a while. And then when I was like 5, he got married again to a woman that had 2 children of her own. So
Was there any legal divorces here, or was he just marry?
no, yeah, he was divorced.
Okay, so your mom signed divorce papers.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And I think that she was peripherally involved in things, but she just wasn't around, like she lived somewhere else. But I think that she was still in contact with my dad.
Yeah.
We just didn't talk about that stuff.
Yeah. So take us to 8, your dad getting shot. What happened?
Okay, so my dad was also a mechanic. He went to college, and then he had worked through college as a mechanic, and he was trying to get a job where he didn't have to work so hard and made a little bit more money. So he went to Dairy Queen U, which was in Dallas.
Did you say Dairy Queen U?
Yeah.
Dairy Queen University? Is that a thing? I've never heard of that.
Yeah. I don't think it's a thing anymore, but it was a thing then.
What
where you
was
learn
it?
how to be you learn how to be a manager of a Dairy Queen.
Oh my God.
I know,
That's
it's
wild.
crazy.
That is wild. Okay.
Yeah. We moved from Texas to Oklahoma so he could get his first store. And so over the summer he had a store and he was with somebody. And then in September I guess it was August. It was August. He got his own store. It was a brand new store in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and he was the manager, and it was.
And at this point, it's him, you, a new wife.
Okay,
your
so
sister.
fourth wife.
Oh, we got rid of the
Yes.
third.
Yes, the third one. The third wife was. She had 2 kids of her own, and she was rather jealous of mine and my sister's relationship with our dad because we were really close because it was just the 3 of us for a long time. And so that relationship was not a good relationship. And I think they were only married for maybe a year and a half. But he ended up adopting one of her daughters. And
Wow.
that's a whole nother story. Okay, so he met his 4th wife. I think it was probably 6 or so months before he was going to Dairy Queen U. Mm-hmm. She was from England, and she was an LPN or an LVN. I'm not sure. She was a nurse. Mm-hmm. And she had 2 girls as well. We stayed with her, or between her and my grandparents, while he was doing his school stuff. And then over the summer, we moved to Muskogee, Oklahoma, and she moved with us. And they actually got married on August 13th, probably. Somewhere in the middle of August, they got married. And that was in 77, because I just turned 8 in 77. And we moved into this beautiful 2-story house, and it was this fairy tale was coming true. He got his new store, and it was brand new and beautiful. And then
Dad running an ice cream shop sounds like a great way to turn 8.
Yeah. I'd started 3rd grade, and Stacy my older sister started 5th grade. And I think that our one stepsister was a year older than Stacy, and then the other one was a year younger than me. So we were all real close together. So It was Labor Day weekend. He had closed the store that night, and when he got home, we were all up watching the Jerry Lewis telethon, and we had this really cool little room that had a big area, and we like made a bed in this room where we could watch TV. And he came in at probably around midnight and told us that we should go to bed soon. It was getting late, and then he had to go in the next morning and open up. And this was before they really had good safety measures on like peepholes and stuff in the back doors and things like that. So someone knocked on the back door, and he assumed it was his assistant manager coming to open the Dairy Queen with him. And it wasn't. It was this man and his girlfriend. And they took him back into the store and made him open the safe and give them the money. And he did everything that they told him to do. And they shot him anyway.
How did you find that out?
We were all still kind of passed out and watching the Jerry Lewis telethon on, and I didn't see who came and told my stepmom, but she got us all together and set us down and just told us that something terrible had happened and that he'd been killed.
You didn't see him after that, his body or anything?
No. They shot him.
Oh, in the head.
They couldn't have a cat.
Yeah,
they didn't
have
have
casket.
No.
What happened to the guys who shot him?
They were caught. I don't know what happened to the girlfriend because I don't know that she may have testified against the boyfriend. That seems like the right thing. But the last I knew, he was still in jail in Texas.
Did you ever think of visiting him?
When I was younger, I thought maybe if he had just killed my dad, he would be out of jail by now. He kept doing bad stuff in jail, and he never was good long enough to have parole. I've kind of lost track with him lately. I don't know what happened to him now.
What happened to the store?
It closed. I think they tried to keep it open for a little while, but
The Dairy Queen where someone was murdered, it doesn't really sell ice cream
brand new. No, it wasn't. No.
So then you're there with your stepmom, her 2 kids, your sister. Mm-hmm. And where do you go from there?
So we really didn't have a support network at all in Oklahoma because we just moved there. It was pretty amazing. The town where my dad had grown up, they got together some money. They raised like $8,000 for us just to put in a bank account for us to have maybe when we were older. So if you noticed in that timeline, my dad married my stepmom in August and he died in September. So they were only married for about 3 weeks before he died. She went from being a single mom of 2 to a widowed mom of 4.
Yeah, widowed mom of 4. Did she legally adopt you guys?
Nope. We stayed with her for that whole school year, and she decided that she just couldn't take care of 4 kids on her own. So she somehow got in contact with our real mother, our biological mother.
This is amazing to me without internet in the 70s, that there was this much, calling him up in the Navy. I don't know how that would have worked.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
So she gets in touch with your mom.
Yes. She gets in touch with my mom.
Wild. Where was your mom at this point? Do you know? Was she in Germany?
She lived in California. Oh, no, she's in California.
Bopping around.
Yeah. And she'd actually joined the Navy. And she'd kind of gotten in, she'd gotten in trouble a little bit. She'd gotten in trouble. And, she'd gone AWOL for a little while. My grandparents weren't very in touch with her or connected to her, and they would not have approved of us going to live with her. And also, she wasn't allowed to be in San Angelo, which was the town that we were living in. She had gotten in trouble and had gotten arrested, and then she'd accused somebody of sexual assault or something like that in jail. So she'd use that to leverage herself out of jail, and they told her, you can go, but don't ever come back again. If you come back again, we're going to arrest you again. You'll go to jail.
Okay.
And so she wasn't allowed to be there. So she came in the middle of the night and picked us up in a van and packed all of our stuff up in this van, and we drove from Texas to California. And I can remember we put like a mattress in the back, and we had like dressers and different things. And I can remember we were driving down the road, and she like turned real sharp, and the dresser like fell from the side, like on top of me, but it didn't fall on top of me because it couldn't, like there wasn't enough room for it to all the way fall. But I can remember it falling over, and it didn't hurt me, but it scared me.
Yeah, it's wild what we remember, like the weirdest memories.
I know. And it's like, that's the only thing that I can
From that trip.
really remember from that whole trip is that dresser almost falling on me.
What was that a loss for you, losing your stepsisters? Like, were you guys close, or was that not really a big deal? Like, have you stayed in touch with them?
Have not stayed in touch with them.
Okay.
They just kind of slipped out of our lives, and I really don't know what happened to them.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be 9 years old and trying to keep track of people that you're not in charge of keeping track of things, so it's hard for you
Totally. That's a good way to put it.
to do that. So
You moved to California with your mom. Where do you guys go?
she lived in San Diego, and she had remarried, and actually I think it was like her third marriage too. She'd been married to someone else and gone to Germany with that person, and then they got divorced, and she married this other person, and he was in the Navy as well. And when we got there, he was out on a ship, and my mom got out of the Navy because she got S, and she was able to be discharged because she had S now. When we got to her house, I remember two things. First of all, she had two lizards that were the coolest. They were Chuckwalla lizards, and one of them's name was Chucky, and one of them's name was Wally, and they were the coolest things. And she also had a roommate she was probably 30 by then, and this girl was barely 20, I'd say. I feel like that it's likely this person was staying with my mom because she was somehow either supplying her with drugs, or they were working together to get drugs, or there was drugs involved in that situation. And she's actually the first person that she thought it would be really cute to get the kids high, so she gave my sister and I marijuana when I was 9.
To smoke or to eat?
Smoked.
It doesn't make it better either way. I don't really know why I asked that, but
This was like 1978. I'm pretty sure there wasn't very much eating of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
she didn't
I don't
make
know, but
gummies for you guys. Yeah.
no, she didn't make gummies. No.
That's so messed up.
My mom, again, still was not very maternal, and I can't even remember if she had a job or not. But like, she would just let us do whatever we wanted to do. Like,
Did you have to go to school?
yeah, we went to school, but if it was raining or if we didn't want to, she wouldn't make us go. But we were enrolled in school. So probably 4 or 5 months after we moved in with my mom, her husband came back from, I think he'd been in China.
Was he like, what the fuck? Who are these kids? Or
I think he knew
Okay.
that we were there. But see, my dad had been in the Navy, and they got money for us, like Social Security from my dad for us. So we were lucrative to her.
you had
She
value
got
all
money
of a
from
sudden.
it. We had value, yes.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah. And also, you remember that $4,000 that
Yeah.
her car broke down or something, and she needed some money to get it fixed.
She used your...
She talked us into signing over like $1,000 from each of us so that she could get her car fixed. And she gave us each $100 to spend. I was 9. My sister was 11. What do 9 and 11-year-olds need to spend $100 on? Anyway, so we bought lots of candy and bullshit like that.
Do you have kids now?
I do.
I'm just curious for the rest of must be so interesting having had raised kids, given that this was how you were raised, seeing it so differently from a mom's perspective now.
I have been very lucky to have strong women in my life that have shown me how to be a mom, because my dad's sister was always in the periphery of my life, and she's a very strong.
Well, yeah, the end of
Good
your
woman.
submission is you end up living with her.
Right. Yes.
Well, so going back to the story for a second, because I want to get to how you become such a strong woman, but I think I'm trying to stay better at being linear. How does she start becoming a drug dealer off the kitchen table?
My stepdad came back from somewhere in Asia, somewhere. I don't know. But anyway, he brought back this big, huge
Of
brick
drugs?
of hash. I can remember it. I can see it like in my head. It looked like tar, and it was wrapped in aluminum foil. And he had a scale, and he had like he would cut little pieces off of it and weigh it and sell it off of our dining room table to people. So that's how they started selling drugs off of our table. And I know I never ever saw any of the parties that happened in our house because my older sister would take us to the bedroom and shut the door and not let me out.
Good.
And so I never saw any, but I saw them selling drugs off of our kitchen table, and I knew that stuff was going on, but I was more protected from it than I could have been. It could have been a lot worse.
And did they stay together, your mom and him?
Yes, as a matter of fact, when I was 15, they had another child. They had a child together, the two of them. And that was a mind fuck.
I'm sure.
Let me just tell you. Because when you're 15 years old and your mom's never really shut up for me, never let me think that she wanted me in any way, shape, or form. And then she has another kid, and that kid is like, she's there for that kid. It's like 15. That's a hard age.
So you have a sibling that's 15 years younger than you.
Well, no. I did, yeah.
What happened to them?
She killed herself.
Oh my God.
She was like 21. She killed herself.
Were you close with her between 0 and 21?
Nope. I never met her. Well, because, okay, so let's get to the place where I'm not with my mom anymore. So, when we go for Christmas to visit my grandparents, and we're like, this may not really be a good place for us to go. And then we go back for the second semester of school, and then we go back for the summer to visit my grandparents in Texas. And we're like, this isn't good. This is bad. Selling drugs out of our living room. They're having drug parties every night.
You tell
They
your
have
grandparents
bad
this?
friends. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Your dad's parents?
Yes. Yes. I mean, if they would have known that she was going to come and get us, they never would have let us go with her. But they snuck around, and my mom and my stepmom kind of
Negotiated the trade, it seems like.
I assume so. That's what it sounds like. Yeah. Yeah. My grandparents were late, like in their 60s, and my grandpa had been sick pretty much since I was a baby. I think he got tetanus and had lockjaw and had to have like a tube in his stomach to feed him for a little while, and then he got over that. They weren't well enough to take care of us, and my grandma worked as a nurse, and so they had to figure out some place for us to go. And my aunt's husband, my dad's sister's husband, was the one that talked him into going to my dad into
Going to Dairy
becoming
Queen, yeah.
Yes. So he felt a little bit guilty about everything that happened, and so they decided that they would take Stacy and I.
Did they have children?
They had one child that was 3, and then my aunt was pregnant with their second child. And so we moved in with them in July of 79, because I was 10. Their children were my siblings.
Yeah.
I was very close to both of them.
How long did you live there? Till you were 18?
I lived there until I graduated from high school, and then I went to college, and I'd come home on the weekends because they owned Dairy Queens as well. As soon as I moved in with them, we started working at Dairy Queen and helping them do stuff on the weekends. And then I think when I was 14, I actually started getting paid to work. Before that, I had worked for free.
God, that's traumatic, though, working at the franchise where your dad was murdered.
Yeah, it was always just a part of our life. I mean,
probably
it just
sounds worse than it actually was in that context.
And you're a child, and you don't associate things like that. And also, like, as a child, I'm just trying to make the world make sense, you know? And so I'm just looking for like normal stuff, when normal stuff was, okay, now I have 2 people that care about me, and I have a place I know I'm going to go home every night, and I know that I'm going to have a bed, they're going to feed me, and everything's going to be okay, and that they do love me. And so that was like a major thing. Like,
did your mom put up a fight at all when your grandparents took you?
No. She really had no leg to stand on because she had not taken good care of us at all.
Yeah.
And I don't have any idea how that conversation went because, again, I wasn't part of it at all. But as far as things go, I know that every year, usually a couple weeks after my birthday, she'd send me a card that had her newest phone number on there. And, once a year we'd talk for 30 minutes or so, and she'd tell me what was new and all that. If my aunt and uncle had adopted us, we wouldn't have been able to get the Social Security money from my dad. So it was a better idea for them to just be our guardians. So we were technically wards of the state of Oklahoma. And so every 6 months we had to go to court. That's probably one of the most traumatic things, is to go to court every 6 months and have them yell your mother's name out in the lobby to make sure that she's not there because
Claim
she could have the right to
take you back.
Yeah. I don't think that we ever would have been anywhere but with them. But as a child, when I was little, I can remember thinking, when all this first started happening, I could remember thinking, this could all end. And I can remember thinking, like, what if she comes back? But then after a while, that just wasn't even a thing, because it got to be just a matter of going to court but they literally had to come and get us out of school and take us, and we had to be present every 6 months to go to court to make sure that we were in the right placement with my aunt and uncle.
So when you're 15 there, was that how you found out? Was through a mom phone call once a year that she was having another child, or how did that go down?
I don't really remember. It's one of those things that
just happened.
I don't know. We just knew. There was like a whole new abandonment thing right there. That was pretty traumatic and terrible. But then, it didn't turn out any better for her. And so I know as a grown-up person that I had no reason to be upset about that, because she didn't have it better than me. She wasn't a better kid than me.
Logically, that's able to see, but emotionally, that still is just like a slap.
It was just another reason why I wasn't good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
In my mind, it was kind of terrible.
So I get the next plot point that I know here is that your sister, who you never met, kills herself, but you have your own narrative in here. So
yeah, so we moved in with my aunt and uncle, and we went to school in a little bitty town in Oklahoma. We've got this little baby and this little 3-year-old, and that's all pretty wonderful. And we start school, and when I started 5th grade at this school, if you haven't realized this, that I've probably gone to since first kindergarten, I've gone to 4 schools. And so I'd kind of fallen through the cracks, and I really didn't know how to read when I started 5th grade. So they tested me and found out that I read on a 1st grade level. And so I got to go to reading lab. That was lots of fun, and learn how to read. And I actually did learn how to read, but I don't read really super fast, but I comprehend really well. Mm-hmm. So that's how we did that. And let's see, my sister, after she graduated from high school, she met a boy, and my uncle didn't approve of him. And so my uncle pretty much told her, also she started going to college, and she felt like she should be able to have different rules. She shouldn't have to be home at 9:00, and she shouldn't be under his thumb. He was really super strict because he felt like we had been let to run wild for a while. So we needed to be
from no structure to a ton of structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she was 18 years old and really felt like that she was in college and that she was grown and she should have a little bit more freedom than she had. He didn't agree with her. So he basically told her, well, you can either live by my rules or you can move out. So she decided that she was going to move out. She moved in with her boyfriend, and he wasn't a great boyfriend. I think he was okay at first, and then there ended up being lots of craziness with that. By this time, my real mom was living in New York, upstate New York, and she actually went to live with her for, it was either a school year or a semester. But she went to school she went to nursing school, and she went to at least a semester, maybe 2 semesters in upstate New York with our mom. And she actually met the sister
But she lived with her for a minute.
Yeah, she lived there for at least 6 months, if not a year. Because
What became your relationship with your mom in your 20s?
Actually, when I was okay, my mom killed herself when I was 19.
Oh, wow.
So my birthday's in May. My sister had met this boy and was planning on getting married in July. And then I had met a boy in college and we were going to get married in August. And my mom was intending to come to, I think she thought she could come to my sister's wedding, but she thought she was going to come to mine. And anyway, so when I got to talk to her at the beginning of June, after my, like a week or so after my birthday, and she told me how she knew she wasn't a good mom and that she knew she'd never been there for me and that she was really sorry for the way that things turned out in my life, and that she really did love me and that she always loved me, but she just couldn't be a mom, and that wasn't, like, she couldn't be there for me and whatever. And then on June 19th, she worked like evening shift, night shift at a behavioral health place, and she took her daughter, who was 5 at that time, to the babysitter and went back to her house and took a whole bunch of pills and never woke up.
That is painful. When she called you and did those apologies, did that mean anything to you, or what? How did you rationalize that?
When it was happening, I thought that she was trying to get herself together and that she was trying to, figure out her life and how she was going to, like how she was going to be in the rest of my life. And afterwards, like looking back, once she killed herself, it was her trying to tie up loose ends, like, I don't know what they call it when you're getting ready to kill yourself and you're reconciling yourself with all the people you hurt in your life so that, I don't know.
Goodbye, amends.
Make amends. Yeah.
How did you find that out, that had happened?
I was at the Dairy Queen in Shawnee, and I think that my sister called me and told me that our mom had died. And the first thing that, I don't know, have you ever just had a thing that like happens to you and it's like all of a sudden you're thinking, oh my God, now well, mine was, oh my God, now I'm an orphan.
Yeah.
Is what I mean, because, my mom's always there. So I have a parent. They're not dead. So I'm not an orphan. And then all of a sudden I'm an orphan.
Did you listen to Eva's episode? The one where her dad was murdered by her stepmom. And
oh, yeah.
I mean, that was her first thought, the exact same thought you just had when her.
It's crazy. I mean, and it's like, I mean, and that's what I said out loud. My aunt is right there beside me. And I said, oh my God, I'm an orphan now. And her first thought to me was, as long as I'm alive, you're not an orphan. She'd always been there for me and always, like, she stepped in to that mom role for me and became.
Thank God you had her.
Yeah.
Because you know what? That's what your little sister didn't have. I mean, the one who you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my little sister that was 5 when my mom killed herself lived with her dad, who obviously we know is not a good guy because he's the one who was selling drugs off of our dining room table. My older sister tried to get custody of my little sister, but they kind of made it all look like my older sister was a problem. And so my little sister went and lived with her dad, and I think he was remarried to someone else too. And shortly after my mom died, I talked to her a couple of times on the phone. I never met her, but I talked to her, and she was like 5 and 6 when I, probably 2 or 3 times when and then they moved from upstate New York to Arizona, and I lost track of them. And by then I was married, and I got married when I was 19.
Are you still with that guy?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked, but
No. No. But I have a beautiful, wonderful child that's
yay,
amazing.
from that marriage.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And is that your only child, or did you then?
No, I have two.
Okay.
I have two. I don't know what happened to my younger sister. She, I don't know. It's terrible when you don't have any kind of support system at all.
Yeah.
And then the people that do take care of you aren't great. So I don't know. And then let's see. I've completely and totally lost my train of thought.
Well, we were kind of at the point where your mom's killed herself. You now find love. You have a child. How did you end up finding out though that your sister had killed herself?
A couple of years ago, like in 2019, my grandfather had a cousin or something like that. Anyway, he had passed away, and he had a little bit of an estate, and so this lawyer was looking for all of my mom's family. So in the process of finding my sister and I, they found my other sister through that lawyer looking for family. Was how I found out that my little sister died.
Oh my God! So you didn't know till like 4 years ago?
Nope.
Wow.
It was
Shocking.
well. It's yeah.
Is your aunt still alive? The one who ended up raising you?
She got cancer she was diagnosed in January of 2010, and she passed away in November of 2011.
That's quick.
Yeah. But she started chemotherapy in July and finished that in like September of 2010. So I was getting divorced from my second husband and had a child that was 5. Had a 5-year-old at the time, and my grandmother was moving in with my mom, and I was alone with my second ex-husband. Was not a good guy, and I had to move away from Missouri to get away from him. And so, I mean, he didn't hurt me or anything. He just was very, like, he moved about a mile away from me with his new girlfriend, and it was bad stuff. So I moved in with my grandma and my mom, and my daughter and I all lived together. And I got to live with her for 4 years before she passed away in New Orleans. And that was actually pretty wonderful because my youngest daughter got to have a really good relationship with my aunt and my grandma. And that was probably one of the best things that I've ever done for her. She got to have some really wonderful relationships with her basically grandma and great grandma.
Yeah.
So it was pretty awesome. And then everybody dies. So that's kind of the story of my life. Everybody dies.
How old are your kids now?
My oldest one is 32. She was born in 1990. And my youngest one is 20. Okay. She was born in 2002. And they each one have a different dad. And
is there anything that you haven't talked about that you wanted to share? Because you know your story better than I can ask.
Well, I think basically the moral, and I don't know, the point of this story is that sometimes things that are really horrible happen, but if you have the right people in your life, it's okay. And I tell you, like, going through my life, everything, you just take everything as it comes, and then at some point it like blindsides you, and it's crazy, and you have to try to deal with it. And I've been in therapy probably for years.
Yeah, that was my next
trying
question.
to deal with all of this stuff. And it's like I still have lots of abandonment issues, and I have lots of like I feel like I don't know. Like it seems like just when you get over one thing, there's another thing that happens. And I can tell you that things that happen to you as a grown-up are a whole lot harder than things that happen to you as a kid. And I don't know.
But the stuff that happens to you as a kid, though, stays with you, and forms your abilities to react as an adult.
It does. Yeah, you're right. It does. And one of the things that I learned to do as a child that has really helped me as a grown-up is when I'm in the middle of things, I can completely dissociate myself from situations and just deal with what I have to deal with. And then go back and deal with, because like when you're a kid and things are happening around you, you can either decide that it's either the world that's crazy or you're crazy. Okay? And it's a whole lot easier to think that you're crazy and that you're the problem than the whole world being the problem. So if you can take yourself out of something and, like put everything into a little ball, I don't know, a little case, then it's more manageable.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much what I do. And then when I get to a place where I can sit down and stop and think about things and deal with them, that's how, I don't know that I've ever really dealt with anything.
It sounds like you've dealt with it. I mean, if you're facing it and talking about it, that's dealing with it.
Yeah.
You're not shutting down.
Yeah.
You're not numbing it. Being able to say everything you just said is dealing with it.
It's true.
So, favorite restaurant.
Yeah. Favorite restaurant.
It's such a pivot.
I know. Okay, so in Overland Park, there's this place called Holy Land Cafe.
I'm glad you didn't say Dairy Queen, by the way. Because it was such a theme of the story. If you had just been like, my favorite restaurant's Dairy Queen.
My favorite restaurant's Dairy Queen, and I like it. No. It's Holy Land Cafe, and they have the very best hummus that I have ever had anywhere. As a matter of fact, since I've been there to have their hummus, I can't even eat the store-bought hummus. It's gross.
Amazing.
So I learned how to make it myself, and it's really good.
Okay.
And then also, like, there's what are those things, the little chickpea balls called?
I don't know. Chickpea balls. Like, are they fried?
Yeah.
All right, fried chickpea balls. Get those too. Update, it was falafel. I don't know why neither of us could figure that out in the moment.
And the gyro meat's good too.
Okay.
It's good stuff.
Okay.
It's everything there. Anything you get there is going to be fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and follow the podcast wherever it is you listen to it so that we can bring you more unexpected stories by ordinary people. And if you didn't like the episode, forget what I just said and just please don't tell anyone.